Now, we mentioned in a previous video where we looked at Resident Evil Requiem on the Nintendo Switch 2 that we got to play a number of titles from Capcom, and we also got to play this one, which is called Pragmata.
Yeah, we'll put a card to the Resident Evil video in the top right-hand corner if you want to give that a watch. But as Mark said, another game that we did play was Pragmata. And again, we'll go through exactly what we saw and give you our initial impressions on the gameplay.
Yeah, this one's interesting actually. It was giving me real Dead Space, the latter Dead Space title vibes in terms of its action. And yeah, I think we can really clarify, I guess, what it's all about. So let's take a look at it.
Okay, what is Pragmata? At least as far as we know. Well, let's find out.
So in terms of when this one actually comes out, it's not out till April the 24th. So we've got a little bit of time yet, and it's another global release, which I'm very happy about in terms of all platforms as well.
Yeah, for sure. This particular demo compared to the Resident Evil one, this felt very much like the beginning of the game, whereas the Resi one, it could have been taken from any point really, couldn't it? It felt like a self-contained moment, whereas this one, it's definitely you starting off and getting to grips with what the game's about.
Yeah, and it's very much a different approach. This is like a sci-fi action adventure that features split protagonists. You play as Hugh Williams, who's described as a spacefarer who's basically been separated from his crew. You find this android girl called Diana, don't you? And she like climbs up onto your back and joins you.
Yeah, you do. It reminded me a little bit, I mean, you mentioned Dead Space in terms of the gameplay, but from the setup, the android, the character reminded me of Megan. You know the character Megan from the films?
I haven't seen them, but yeah, I do
you know who I
yeah.
mean. And also the new Predator film where you had the Predator with the android strapped to his back.
Oh, okay.
Just, I don't know, little flashes of other things that I kind of saw in this.
It's interesting because you see something like that in a game and you're like, okay, how is this actually going to play out? You know, how's this going to work? And what Diana allows you to do, and I actually liked this. It took a bit of a while for me to get it, but you'll be fighting against these AI androids and you can hack them on the fly, can't you?
You can, yeah. So you're controlling the kind of main protagonist, if you like. Is it Hugh? You said Hugh. And shooting these robots, but at the same time, Diana is hacking into them, which allows you to then get a better shot, like a critical hit, and do more damage. And it almost plays out like a mini game where you're needing to navigate a small maze almost and go through particular icons on the screen to get the maximum opportunity, if you like. And then you're still shooting with the other character. So you're almost using two parts of your brain at the same time.
You really are, and it actually works. That's the most surprising part. It really does work. Like you map out the route whilst taking a slight break from shooting, and then you just concentrate on movement, and your brain has remembered that, and you do the button press, and it's quite satisfying.
Yeah, it's one of those where on paper you feel like it's not going to work because it's almost like an overload.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you'd feel like the game should pause for a moment, but the fact that it doesn't, I think, plays to its strength of constantly keeping you in a dangerous situation where you have to adapt and you have to, as I say, use two parts of your brain to solve this equation while still shooting.
I like that, the equation.
Yeah.
If you're shooting them without that, you're just doing very, very minor damage. So it does become a key feature, a bit like the Dead Space shooting off limbs.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
You needed that really to be most effective. Now, as she gets more powerful, you get new nodes for that hacking game, and passing through those then allows you to do special things, and some of them are optional as well. If you want to go straight to the hack and do like lesser damage, you can do it, can't you?
You can, yeah. And I believe there were certain enemies where there was like a weak spot, so that's another thing to take into account. And on those particular enemies, if you were trying to do it without the hack, it was almost impossible. You know, you had to get that hack, you had to open them up for that moment and then obviously do a lot more damage.
Outside of that, your movement did allow you to dodge as well, and you had a thruster that you could use to kind of boost jump around.
Yeah, there's a surprising amount of almost platforming here. You will be revisiting areas that are locked and having to find a button or something and moving up on, you know, lifts, elevators, that sort of thing, but a more futuristic version, I guess. And yeah, it does blend the action and the adventure side very well.
The level that we played, as you said, it has a linearity to it. Like, it does feel like an introduction to a lot of the mechanics. You've got things like lifts that you can grapple onto and move up, and the platforming that you mentioned, but there's almost an equal balance between the combat and those platforming sections.
There were, and there'll be times where you go into a room and you'll need to press a button to activate the lift or whatever it may be, a door from previous rooms, but then you'll be attacked and it'll kind of lock in and you'll have to defeat all of the enemies before you can move on. And as I said, yeah, it does do a good job of keeping quite a few different components or plates almost spinning at the same time.
It does have a slight puzzle element to it as well. There are a couple of times where you needed to use, you had a scanner, didn't you? You had to scan and then it would show, the button would show up. You'd activate it from a distance.
Yes.
And you almost needed that to do a bit of like puzzle platforming.
Yeah, and the demo ended with a boss battle, didn't it, where you needed to take down this boss using basically the skills that the game had taught you thus far. And again, that hacking mini game, if you want to call it that, does play a major part. It's the only way really that you're going to chip off enough health to really get past these bosses. I'll tell you what I'm quite intrigued to see is whether you ever play as Diana exclusively, whether they'll do a bit of the, was it Resident Evil Revelations 2, wasn't it, where you had the two characters, one was a small child, and they crawled into small spaces and did bits like that. I wonder if there'll be anything like that, or whether you'll stay exclusively as one almost, you know?
I think you probably will. It just feels like an interesting thing to use to suddenly make you weak for a time, you know? Maybe it'll be stealth, I don't know. But yeah, I like the idea of it, at least for a short section.
I wonder, there could be times where you have to, as her, separate from him, hack in, and then he's got X amount of time to defeat an enemy before she's injured, or, speculating. But there's things they could do with it, isn't there?
My only real negative from my experience so far with it, I'm not sure how I feel about the character of that girl. She's a little bit...
It's one of those, I think it's a trope that's used a lot now, where you have this young child that's clearly very intelligent, or in this case, obviously not fully human, and they kind of are almost on a different sphere to the other character, a different plane in terms of either intellect or just communication, and it makes it hard to empathise with them, and it's used so much these days that it does feel a little bland.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. I didn't empathise with them, that's exactly the word. Whereas in Dead Space, although it did less vocally and things like that, I empathised with, it was Isaac, I think, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Like they just, the way they built him was a bit more believable, but they may have done that. This could be an hour in after you've really learned what's going down.
Either that, or this is very early doors and they haven't got to that point yet. It could be either, but from what we saw at least, it was just a case of him scooping her up, not really being much of a relationship there at this moment, and not expanding on it, at least, from what we saw.
Visually speaking, it's another that uses that RE engine, isn't it? And it's another that targets 60 frames per second.
It is, It's got a very clinical look to it. Like the space station's very, clean, very white, has that kind of feel to it. As we mentioned, there are some ways of getting about that lend itself quite nicely to the futuristic theme as well.
Yeah, at any moment I was waiting for like Bishop to come in. Is Bishop the android?
Yes. In Aliens, yeah, definitely. It's got that sort of feel to it. And that kind of ties into what we were just saying about an android character.
Yeah.
Where they have that almost quirkiness to them, where they're not quite human. And it can work very well, but just very early in what we saw with the young girl, it didn't quite come off yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like that's the nuance of some of those original Alien films, you know, whereas these days it's so like, we must show the player, and she's very in your face.
Yeah.
Bit much.
Yeah. What did you feel on things like performance and that, just from the snapshot that we saw?
Again, I think it's another that is targeting 60. There's some fluctuation there. Smooth enough.
Yeah.
But this is the one that I got to play in handheld.
Yes.
Got some footage of that actually, and it was great in handheld. I think before even that, you mentioned the hair being the thing that shows it. Shows it again here, doesn't it, in the little girl?
In the Resi game, we were talking about the hair, because you can play in third-person view, or with a third-person view. And in this one, obviously, as far as we saw, you don't have a choice. You are in third person, so it's very apparent very quickly, isn't it?
It is. And I guess this is the standard we've got for RE as it stands. I'd say it's good enough.
Yeah.
And the fact it's got 60 is quite impressive.
Yeah, definitely. I do think, obviously, because we played the two games almost back to back.
Yeah.
In my opinion, at least, the Resident Evil game was almost noticeably of a higher quality. Maybe that's just a bit of bias there for the series, I don't know, but it just felt a bit more polished. Maybe, again, you said this one's not out for another couple of months yet. Could be that.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and I do believe this demo is an older demo.
Right.
It's likely it has a newer build. But also Resi's smaller scale in terms of environments.
Yeah, from what we saw, that was very claustrophobic, very kept, enclosed, if you like, whereas this was certainly a lot bigger in scope.
Either way, at the moment, other than Star Wars Outlaws, I think the RE engine is just crushing it.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a bit of a godsend for Capcom, hasn't it, really?
For sure. Things like resolution and stuff like that, we've mentioned the hair. You do see a slight drop, I would say, certainly compared to something like the PS5 version. But feels nice, and in handheld, as we say, great. Sound and audio, what do you think of that?
With this one, I didn't have the headphones in. I put them in initially, but I wasn't as invested, so I took them off and just played without them. So I haven't got a huge amount to say, to be perfectly honest. From what I heard, it was appropriate for what was going on the screen. It didn't blow me away, but it set the mood, set the scene quite well.
Yeah, I'd say pretty much the same. I always find with sound and audio, if I remember it, then it was memorable.
Yeah.
If I don't,
it's forgettable. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you mean it was fine becomes the phrase really.
Yeah.
Unless there's something that stands out. But the voice acting did stand out to me as a little, just didn't quite click.
Again, and it could just be, and people may agree, they may not, just child acting in general. That child voice, just as a grown 40-year-old man, doesn't resonate with me as well, and that's just, unfortunately, that's what they've gone for. That's what there's going to be.
Yeah.
That's just how I'm going to feel about it.
Yeah, until they build up that emotional connection with the player, I think that's going to be the take of a lot of people.
So that's it then. That's what we've seen of Pragmata. Do let us know what you think of this one from your initial impressions of this video, or what you've seen trailer-wise, whatever else. Are you looking forward to this one? Do stick it all in the comment section below.
Yeah, big thank you to Nintendo for having us out to play a lot of these games, to Capcom as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you to all of you for watching, of course, our patrons and our channel members. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.